Hey guys, it's Sullivan Owen here in Philadelphia. So I think it's been 2 weeks since I put out my last garden renovation video, which was the tree removal. Lots of stuff has changed. I'm not going to do another time-lapse video because, well, you've seen one tree or 14 come down, you've seen them all. But I am going to just kind of, I think we'll do a lap. My property, as you may have seen from the tree removal video, is a large square with the house kind of tucked off in one corner. And since we are practicing social distancing, trying to stay safe, spending a lot of time at home, I've just been weeding and cultivating patience and optimism. So let's do garden renovation video number 2 and just take a lap, and then I have some footage that I'll cut in here and there of different projects. So we're standing out front of my office. Here we are at the front door. Not too much happening, except we got 1, 2, 3, 4 boxes of bareroot roses, and probably dahlia tubers, which I'm very excited for because I will be starting my dahlias early in containers under grow lights. These are planters from last season that I just popped some pre-sprouted anemones in. These abelia look very happy. I am super excited to see how much growth the peonies are putting on. That one is eating its tag. Sonoma welcome. That's a really pretty peony. So these are 3 years old at this point. A little copper kettle, Sonoma floozy. I think that's old rose dandy. So lots of peony progress. Roses. We did have a shrub. That shrub that did not do well. I was weeding and it literally came out. So I will have to think about what's going to go there. This peony, this is the first peony to bloom in the garden. I don't have a name for it. It looks like it's going to be a really, really pretty season for it. So that's a viburnum I bought late in the season. I don't know, just excited to see things coming back. Lots of weeding happening. These are some of the little hellebores from the pine knot. It's like they look good. They're gonna give me some flowers on the 3-inch, 4-inch size. Some older hellebore that I planted last year. And then this area, if you watched the landscape design and sketching video, I showed you guys the plans for this bed. I'll just flash up a still from that. So this was all covered in ivy. And I'm discovering that the ivy that has overrun what feels like the entire city block all originated from our yard. So the previous owners seem to really like their English ivy, and they planted a lot of it. So right here, there was an enormous root system, and I have footage of that. So this was all covered in ivy, and then Tim and I have had to remove all the ivy in order to take the fence down, which has now happened. And I'm just working on eradicating as much ivy as possible, and we're waiting to find out if because everybody in the Philly area, only essential businesses are allowed to be open, so we haven't really determined if we'll be able to do our grading work or put our new fence in and things like that. But my planters are looking okay. The squirrels have really been eating these like crazy, but I am really glad that I was able to get these flowers before everything shut down. it's just nice to see some color. And even though we're all social distancing, everybody's been walking around in the neighborhood, and lots of people have told me that seeing the bright color up here is making them happy. So it's making me happy too, even though I would like to cut and make something very much. But this is what basically the ivy everywhere looks like. We had to really dig down to cut out the fence chunks. This is, I've gone over it with the brush cutter a few times. Nothing's really happening in the grass bed yet. It really has it's so nice to see the fence gone. The chain link fence. So basically it appears that long ago, the family that owned our home put up the chain link fence and planted ivy at certain intervals, and it has grown into massive ivy trees, which I am cutting, pulling, digging, cutting, pulling, trying to find the roots. This is where the white birch was, so there's just been like a bunch of ivy tangled up with the roots. So I'm really having to dig pretty far down to try to eradicate as much of it as possible. And it's a good project for if I get stressed, if I get anxious, if I don't have a whole lot to do, I can come out and work on a section and just keep pulling and trying to clean up as much as we can, because the soil underneath is quite nice. It just is covered in ivy. So this bed that used to be nestled under the birch tree now looks like it's a pretty bed. It's pretty neutral. Some of these things will have to get moved as they don't have as much shade. But these are all a bunch of tulips and anemones that look like they're excited to bloom. I should say, you saw me in the intro, I have a winter hat on and a winter jacket. It's freezing today. It's not actually legitimately freezing, but it's rainy and cold, and it feels a lot colder than it is. But these all look happy. The weeds, this has landscape fabric because of the ivy sitch, but I'm not planning on doing landscape fabric anywhere, and we'll be cutting this out as we start to finish removing. So the black plastic. So we had originally, with our original timeline, had hoped to clear the ivy, the trees, put down a whole lot of cardboard and fresh compost, and start gardening. But that is on hold, as are many things. So I am just working as hard as I can to clean inside the fence line first, and then we'll work on the outside of the fence line. And as I get an area cleared, I'm just covering it with this heavy black plastic that I have around for just suppressing weeds. So it's not totally perfect. Ivy is incredibly invasive, obviously. Let me see if I can find... Oh, this one was wild. But, it was basically like a tree. And they're grown into all of the fence posts. So, as I clean the sections, I'm going to be covering them with plastic just to try and help suppress the weeds while we figure out what we're going to be able to achieve. Also finding old tree roots. I found a hidden old tree stump. So this is like 1 or 2 passes of cleaning. That's sort of what it looks like when I haven't gotten through a lot of it. This is where we had the big tree removed, so it's all mulchy. This is a really pretty spirea, or 1, 2, potentially 3 spirea. I will dig it up before we grade, because it never really thrived because it was being drowned by the old overgrown yew that was here. but it looks like it's pretty happy and it's nice and tall, so it's definitely worth saving. So once I get a little further in clearing, I will dig that guy up and try to give it a new home. Okay, so coming up the driveway, this is the back corner of our yard. We had that huge old black walnut removed. The guys did a great job. They ground out as much of the stump and roots as we could find. So we're hoping that because we're going to regrade this and raise the soil up, that we can mitigate any residue of the black walnut toxicity. But yeah, it definitely feels pretty crazy not having the fence here, and I don't know why Tim put the table and chairs back out. So these are all the peonies. I think the mulch that we put down in here had onion bulbs in it, because this has just been like a never-ending battle to remove the onion bulbs. But these are all the fall planted peony roots showing their pips and showing new growth. Some roses, some biennial foxgloves that will bloom this year, the old hydrangeas. Roses look healthy. And then I got a whole load of containers, so we'll look at those really quickly. So for now, this is cardboard and compost. I am hoping to enlarge this bed at some point, but having a little trouble sourcing large quantities of compost for that project. I popped some of my snapdragon seedlings into just this container. Then it stopped being sunny enough for them. Some bulbs that got tucked into these. I'm really struggling with the squirrels eating all the bulbs this year. I put repellent on them, but it's been rainy like every other day, so the repellent is not as effective after the rain. But a few sunny days and I think we're getting there. So looking at all the containers, we'll go over here first. So I had this guy, this like white vase-shaped urn, and I got the larger version of it. I got a whole bunch of these just like simple gray concrete fiber resin in different shapes. So and a really big cube. So some of these will be grouped at the front door. I have a few of the same finish pedestals as well, kind of just keeping things simple. I do think it looks good with the paint color. These, the idea would be to put them at the back of my office at some point, but that's kind of depend on hardscaping and things like that. But bowl shapes, cylinders, these are like a compote shape, and then cubes. So lots of fun stuff there. They will not all go at the front of the house, because that would be kind of crazy. But the idea, if you saw last week's drawing video, would be that this bed and all of this would be reworked, and there would be a patio, and I think it would be fun to have a big group of containers on the patio as well. These are some of the giant pots that I ordered in the wrong size. And I only got 10 of them. They weren't super expensive. I just did not double check the measurements. And actually, I'm very grateful. This tree was in a container and it was outgrowing it. And it was my first espalier project. So it's a Santa Rosa plum. So a Japanese plum variety. and it was kind of in sad shape when I picked it up at the garden center, but it had fruit on it. So I used a gridded trellis and had it in its container for the winter, and sort of worked on changing its shape so it sort of fans this way. So the idea would be to find a second one and kind of mirror it. And I think they're going to go against the garage at some point. I just think, you know, it was a tree. I hadn't intended to try to espalier anything, and certainly I did not do a formal shape. But the tree sort of wanted to go this way. It had had some damage over here, and most of the branches were going this way. So that will be plums at some point. Everything over here is coming back pretty strong. I don't know if any, I love the color. This is an Amsonia. I think those black shoots are really, really cool. Soon to be lilac. This is the plant that started it all with the garden. I'm excited to see. A lot of my roses were pretty young last year, so I'm excited to see them looking good and healthy. All right, guys, so that's where we're at. I'm gonna unpack my boxes of plants, maybe we'll do a little video for future of prepping bare roots for planting, bare root roses. But yeah, so we did a full lap. We went down that way, around the whole perimeter, and back this way. There's some bare roots that arrived last week. They're not quite container planted, like with the roots flared out. They're sort of in between something called heeling in, which is where you sort of rest them on an angle. And I found that if I did that, kind of going around the perimeter of the big pot, I could get, I think I could probably get as many as 6 in one of these. And they look happy. They're already leafing out a little, like, you know, I can see where they will leaf out. So I guess since I am carrying a box of more bare root roses, I think I'll have to do a count. But if you watch the Dahlia tour, you know I have no issue buying lots and lots and lots of quantities of plants. I want to say I may be planting about 25 bare root roses this year. So that's 7. There's 2 over there, and I have a box next to me, and I think there's a few more. So I will try and film a video on how I am kind of storing the roots, letting them get acclimated a little bit, and then hopefully we'll be able to see them going into the ground too. All right, so now I'm standing inside the sun bubble, the bubble that I am using as a greenhouse for my seedlings, and I have moved the Lisianthus. Those are extra hellebore. Tons and tons of hollyhocks, some asters, pansies, more pansies. This is Gara, black-eyed Susan vine. Everything is really, really happy in here. It is only a few degrees warmer in here than it is outside. The one thing I'm kind of dealing with is sort of letting go. Zip this shut. Is sort of letting go of all the expectations I had for this year's garden plans. We got our tree work done in the early spring instead of the fall, which is when we had originally hoped for, and as a result I just didn't get this weeding and grading and all of the things that need to happen before I can start the garden beds that I have kind of been dreaming and planning for the last year. And I'm not going to say that that's not like a total bummer, but they're plants. They're going to be beautiful whether they go into their final home or not. I am so happy that I did pre-order so much, because it's keeping me busy. I'm basically gardening, working on some video stuff, a big video project that I've been working on for like a year that hopefully will be out maybe next week's video. And then I'm doing a volunteer shift at Phil Abundance in the warehouse, just like helping out with like food bank stuff. So, I'm grateful that I have the plants that I have to keep working on. It's a little bit, right now we don't know if they're going to be delivering soils, mulches, if we're going to be able to get the equipment that our landscaping contractor needs to do the grading. We obviously want to keep supporting as many small businesses as we can during a difficult time. It's just kind of like letting go of the expectation of what it's going to be and just being grateful that that we have a lovely home to garden at. And I know that later in the future I will thank myself for eradicating as much of the ivy as I can. And I have dahlias here and roses, and in another month and a half, when it's really warming up and the ground's warming up, we'll know how much progress we've made with the garden stuff. I would like to avoid planting things before the fence goes in, just because I don't want the fence guys to have to worry about stepping on anything. But we'll figure it out. I'm just trying to let go of all the ideas I had about where I would be in my garden progress for this spring and just sort of enjoy the tasks that I have. I'll say that the constant weeding and pulling, it's like really exhausting. So it's helping me be tired at the end of the day so that I sleep well. It's offsetting some of the stress eating. And, it's just, we all kind of just need to like let go of any expectation, look forward. The plants will grow, there will be flowers. The garden centers that can't ship will reopen at some point. The people that are shipping, the people that have flowers are figuring out creative ways to get them to everybody, and just kind of putting any expectation I had for this season on hold and just enjoying the things that I have. I can get the area that we just walked through cleared, free of ivy. We can get our fence in. I have room to plant everything that I have and can enjoy it for the whole season, whether it's in its meticulously designed bed or not. I can just throw seeds around and be happy with what grows. So I think that gardening has always been like an exercise in optimism, especially for someone like myself who is not a naturally optimistic person. It's rewarding to see things kind of come back, to see the peonies start to break through. I have all those peonies that I planted in the fall to look forward to. I think they all look like mature enough plants that I may actually get a flower off of all of them. Like it's the little stuff now that we have to be grateful for and look forward to. So I'm happy that I have a place to put everything. I am happy that I ordered some of the plants that I did. I'm grateful that Tim and I are able to work on things and work on making our home, where we're spending so much time, nice. I mean, it's, we worked very hard to make the inside nice. Now it's nice to be making the outside just as fun to be in. I've become a little bit of a garden renovation real life show for my neighbors who are all, walking around maintaining social distancing. But, now that the fence is gone, everyone can see what I'm up to, and everybody's been very encouraging. And I think, it's nice to be able to show the neighbors that we do care about making our home not an eyesore. And we're doing whatever we can, and we hope that our garden centers and landscapers and soil deliveries and all of that will be back on track soon. If they're not, we'll figure it out. it's more important that everybody stays safe and healthy. And I think I'm just realizing you kind of just have to take each day and let go of the things that you can't control. So for me, that's just cultivating some patience and definitely a lot of optimism. It's a scary time, but you can look at plants and know that if you're giving them water and care and some sun at some point, that they'll flower or provide you with fruit and vegetables. So there's something really comforting about that to me. Thank you guys so much for watching the second of the garden renovation video. I feel like I'm making good progress in the weed removal, and I'm hoping that when I come back to this series in a couple weeks, we will have made some progress on making some things look like flower beds. If we haven't, no big deal, there will still be flowers. So take care, stay safe, and I will see you next time.